Daniel Brooks was just another face in the crowd on the big space station called Harmony Point. The station floated high above Earth, a giant wheel of metal and lights where people from many worlds came to talk, trade, and sometimes argue. Daniel worked as a security guard. He was 32 years old, not too tall, with short brown hair and tired eyes. His job paid enough to buy food and pay rent in the cheap worker quarters, but not much more. Every day looked the same. He woke up in his small room, put on his plain gray uniform, checked his stun baton and badge, and walked to his post. Most of the time he stood in the lower corridors. These were the busy hallways where traders from different planets moved crates, pilots rushed to their ships, and workers fixed pipes or cleaned floors. Daniel checked ID cards, watched for fights, and told people not to run. It was boring work, but he did it without complaint. Daniel Brooks was just another face in the crowd on the big space station called Harmony Point. Back on Earth, in a small town in Ohio, he grew up helping his dad fix cars. After high school, he tried a few jobs, but nothing stuck. When the chance came to work in space, he took it. The pay was better than home, and he liked the quiet feeling of being far away. He never talked much to the other guards. They called him Danny sometimes, but he just nodded and kept to himself. One afternoon, the station got busy. A message came over the speakers. The Valorian delegation was arriving soon. Everyone knew about the Valorians. They came from a distant planet covered in shining crystals. Their ships looked like floating jewels, and their people had skin that glowed softly like moonlight on water. They were tall, graceful, and very proud. Most humans felt small next to them. The princess was coming too. Her name was Leora. She was the next leader of her people, young but already important. The leaders on Harmony Point wanted everything perfect for her visit. They hoped to sign a new agreement with the Valorians. Humans needed their advanced tech, better engines, stronger shields, clean energy. In return, Earth would share its food farms and music, things the Valorians found strange but interesting. Because so many important guests were coming, the security team needed extra hands. The regular guards who usually watched the royal visitors were busy with other duties. So the boss picked Daniel and 3 others from the lower levels. "Just stand there and look serious," the supervisor said. "Don't talk unless someone asks you something. The princess doesn't like small talk with humans." Daniel didn't mind. Extra hours meant extra pay. He stood in the arrival bay with his team. The bay was huge, with bright lights and clean white floors. Big view windows showed the blue curve of Earth below. A soft hum filled the air from the engines. The Valorian ship docked with a gentle click. The door opened, and out walked the delegation. First came the guards, tall figures in silver armor that shimmered. Then came advisors in long robes. Last came Princess Leora. She was beautiful in a way that made people stop and stare. Her skin was pale silver, with faint blue lines that glowed when she moved. Her eyes were deep violet, and her long hair flowed like liquid starlight. She wore a simple but elegant dress made of thin fabric that caught the light. A small crown of crystal sat on her head. She walked slowly, head high, looking straight ahead. Daniel stood at attention near the side wall. He kept his eyes forward, like he was trained, but he couldn't help glancing at her once or twice. She seemed so calm, so far above everything. To her, this station was probably just another stop. To him, it was his whole world. The group moved down the main corridor toward the guest suites. Daniel and the other guards followed at a distance. Their job was to watch the sides, make sure no one got too close. A few traders tried to take pictures, but the Valorian guards stopped them with cold looks. When they reached the royal wing, the doors opened to a quiet area with soft lights and thick carpets. The princess stopped for a moment. She turned slightly and looked at the human guards behind her. Her eyes met Daniel's for half a second. No smile, no words, just a quick look, like she was noting something small and unimportant. Then she walked inside, and the doors closed. Daniel let out a slow breath. He felt strange. Not scared, not excited. Just noticed, even if only for a moment. He shook his head and went back to his normal post in the lower corridors. The fancy part of the job was over, or so he thought. That evening, he sat in the mess hall, eating plain noodles from a tray. Other guards talked about the princess. "Did you see her eyes? Like lasers," one said. "Humans are nothing to them," another added with a laugh. Daniel stayed quiet. He finished his food, went to his room, and lay on his narrow bed. The station's hum was the only sound. He thought about the look she gave him. It wasn't rude. It was empty, like he was part of the wall. He told himself it didn't matter. He was just a nobody guard. Tomorrow would be the same as today. But deep down, something small had changed. He didn't know it yet, but the routine was about to break. The next day started quiet. Daniel stood his usual post near the cargo lifts. He checked a few crates, waved at a friendly alien trader who always said hello. Around noon, the intercom buzzed again. "All extra security to the diplomatic level. Princess Leora's group is moving to the main hall for the welcome reception." Daniel sighed, but he grabbed his gear and went up. The main hall was big and round, with a high ceiling that showed stars through a clear dome. Tables were set with food from many worlds. Fruits that glowed, breads that floated slightly, drinks in crystal cups. Soft music played, a mix of human strings and Valorian chimes. Important people filled the room. Earth diplomats in suits, alien ambassadors with strange skin and extra arms, traders in bright clothes. Daniel took his place near one wall, arms behind his back, watching everything. Princess Leora stood in the center with her advisors. She spoke softly to the Earth leader, her voice calm and clear. Daniel couldn't hear the words, but he saw how everyone listened when she talked. He scanned the crowd like he always did. Most faces looked normal, curious, bored, polite. But one man caught his eye. A human worker in a maintenance jumpsuit stood near the back door. He kept looking at his wrist pad, then at the princess. Something about his posture felt wrong. Too stiff, too focused. Daniel moved a little closer, staying casual. The man noticed and stepped back into the shadow of a pillar. Daniel's gut told him to watch. He had seen troublemakers before. Thieves, drunks, angry ex-workers. This felt different. The reception went on. People clapped when the Earth leader made a speech about friendship between worlds. Princess Leora nodded and said a few words in her smooth language. A translator repeated them in English. "We come in peace and hope for shared stars." Daniel kept his eyes on the maintenance man. The guy slipped toward a side hallway. Daniel followed at a distance, heart beating a bit faster. In the empty corridor, the man stopped and pulled something small from his pocket, a thin device with a blinking light. Before Daniel could call it in, the lights in the main hall flickered. A low alarm sounded, not loud, but enough to make people look up. Then the power cut for a second. In the dark, shouts started. When the lights came on again, he saw two figures in dark cloaks moving fast toward the princess. They held short blades that glowed blue. Valorian guards stepped in front, but one assassin was already too close. Without thinking, Daniel pushed through the crowd. He didn't have a plan. He just knew he had to get there. The princess turned, eyes wide for the first time. The assassin raised his blade. The chaos in the main hall happened fast. One moment, everyone was clapping politely after the speeches. The next, the lights flickered like they were dying, then went black for a heartbeat. When they snapped back on, two figures in dark cloaks pushed through the crowd, straight toward Princess Leora. Daniel Brooks was already moving. He had felt the wrongness in the air since he spotted that maintenance worker earlier. Now he saw the truth. The worker was one of them. The assassins moved like they had practiced this 100 times. Their glowing blue blades were short but deadly. Valorian tech stolen or copied, sharp enough to cut through armor. The Valorian royal guards reacted quickly. They formed a wall in front of Leora, their silver armor flashing under the lights. One guard raised a hand weapon that hummed with energy. But the assassins were faster than anyone expected. The first one leaped over a table, knocking over crystal cups that shattered on the floor. The second slipped to the side, trying to circle around. Daniel didn't think, he just ran. His boots pounded on the polished floor. People screamed and scattered. A diplomat fell, clutching his arm. Daniel shoved past a tall alien with 4 arms, who was trying to hide under a table. He reached the fight just as the first assassin lunged at Leora. The princess stepped back, calm even now, but her violet eyes widened a little. Her guards were busy with the second attacker. No one was close enough to stop this one. Daniel slammed into the assassin from the side. His shoulder hit hard against the cloaked figure's ribs. They both crashed to the ground. The blade sliced across Daniel's left arm as they fell. Hot pain burned through him, but he ignored it. He grabbed the assassin's wrist and twisted hard. The man grunted and tried to pull free. They rolled. Daniel was on top for a second. He punched the assassin in the face, once, twice. It was a human face underneath, young, angry, eyes full of hate. "You're nothing," the man spat, "just a bug under our boot." Daniel didn't answer. He drove his knee into the man's stomach and grabbed the blade hand again. The assassin was strong, trained. He flipped them over, so Daniel was on his back. The blade came down fast. Daniel caught the wrist with both hands. His wounded arm screamed in pain. Blood ran down his sleeve and dripped onto the floor. He pushed up with all his strength. The blade hovered inches from his chest. Around them, the fight continued. The second assassin had cut one Valorian guard across the leg. Another guard fired a stun shot that missed and hit a pillar instead. Sparks flew. People ran for the exits. Security teams poured in from the side doors, but they were still too far. Princess Leora stood behind her remaining guards. She didn't run. She watched. For the first time, her calm face showed something. Surprise, maybe even a flicker of worry. Daniel's arms shook. The assassin pressed down harder. The tip of the blade touched Daniel's uniform, right over his heart. He felt the heat from the energy edge. His muscles burned. He thought about his small room, his boring days, the way no one ever noticed him. Then he thought about how this princess, someone who looked at him like he was part of the furniture, might die right here if he let go. With a low growl, Daniel bucked his hips and twisted at the same time. The assassin lost balance for a second. Daniel rolled them again. Now he was on top. He slammed the assassin's hand against the floor. Once, twice. The blade clattered away. Daniel punched the man in the throat. The assassin choked and went limp. Daniel scrambled up, breathing hard. Blood soaked his sleeve. His side hurt too. He must have taken a hit. He didn't notice. He looked around. The second assassin was down. A Valorian guard had him pinned, knee on his back. Security teams swarmed in, stun batons out. The hall was a mess. Broken tables, spilled food, people crying or shouting. Daniel turned to the princess. She stood untouched. Her guards formed a tight circle around her again. She looked straight at Daniel. This time the look wasn't empty. Her violet eyes studied him like she was seeing him for the first time. One of the Valorian guards stepped forward. "Human," he said in a deep voice, "step back." Daniel raised his good hand. "I'm security. I was assigned here." The guard looked at the blood on Daniel's arm, then at the unconscious assassin at his feet. He nodded once, sharp. Medics rushed in. They went to the wounded first, the diplomat with the cut arm, the Valorian guard with the leg injury. Then one medic reached Daniel. "Sit down," she said. "You're bleeding bad." "I'm fine." "You're not fine," she said. "Come on." They guided him to the side. He sat on a low bench near the wall. The medic cut away his sleeve. The cut was deep, red, and angry. She pressed a clotting patch on it and wrapped it tight. Pain flared, but Daniel kept his face straight. Across the room, Princess Leora spoke quietly to her advisors. Then she walked over. The crowd parted for her. Her steps were slow and graceful, even now. She stopped in front of Daniel. Up close, her skin glowed softly. The blue lines on her arms pulsed a little faster than before. "You are hurt because of me," she said. Her voice was clear, like cool water. Daniel looked up. "It's my job, ma'am." She tilted her head. "Most humans would have run. You did not." He shrugged with his good shoulder. Didn't think about it. A small silence passed. Then she said, "What is your name?" "Daniel Brooks." "Daniel Brooks," she repeated, like she was tasting the words. "Thank you." Before he could answer, the medics came back. They wanted to take him to the med bay. Daniel stood slowly. His head felt light, but he walked on his own. As they led him away, he glanced back. Princess Leora was still watching him. Her face was calm again, but something had changed in her eyes. In the med bay, they cleaned the wound and gave him stitches. The doctor said he was lucky. The blade missed anything important. They patched his side too, where a stray shot had grazed him. They wanted him to stay overnight. Daniel lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling. The station's hum felt louder here. His arm throbbed under the bandage. He thought about the fight, how close it had been, how he had jumped in without a second thought. A nurse came in later. "Someone wants to see you," she said. Princess Leora walked in alone. No guards this time. She stood at the foot of the bed. "They told me you will heal," she said. "Yeah, I'll be back on duty soon," he replied. She looked at the bandage. "You fought for someone you do not know, for someone who has never spoken more than 2 words to you." Daniel gave a small smile. Seemed like the right thing. Her lips curved, just a tiny bit, the first hint of the smile he had ever seen from her. "Humans are strange. My people think you are weak because you break easily. But you do not break when it matters." Daniel didn't know what to say. He just nodded. "I will speak to your commanders," she said. "You will be part of my guard detail from now on, if you agree." Daniel blinked. "Me?" "Yes, you." He thought about his boring posts in the lower corridors, about being invisible, about today when for once he wasn't. "I agree," he said. She nodded once. "There will be more danger. The ones who attacked tonight were only the beginning." She turned to leave. At the door, she paused. "You are not invisible to me anymore." Then she was gone. Daniel lay back. His heart beat steady despite the pain. For the first time in years, he felt something like purpose. Outside, the station kept turning. Alarms were quiet now, but everyone knew the peace talks were in danger. The radicals would try again, and Daniel Brooks, the nobody guard, was right in the middle of it. Daniel Brooks woke up in the med bay, feeling like someone had hit him with a cargo crate. His left arm was stiff under fresh bandages, and a dull ache sat in his side where the graze had been sealed. The lights above were soft, not the bright ones from the main hall. A quiet beep came from the monitor next to his bed. He moved slowly, testing his body. It hurt, but he could sit up. The nurse came in with a tray. "You're awake. Good. Eat something light. No heavy lifting for at least 2 days." Daniel took the tray. It had warm broth, soft bread, and a cup of water. He ate slowly while the nurse checked his vitals. "The commander wants to see you later," she said. "And someone else too." He knew who the someone else was. An hour later, the door opened. Commander Hale walked in first. He was a tall man with gray hair and a face that never smiled much. Behind him came Princess Leora. She looked the same, calm, glowing softly, but her eyes found Daniel right away. "Brooks," the commander said, "you did good work last night. Saved a lot of trouble." Daniel nodded. "Just doing my job, sir." Hale looked at the princess. "Her Highness requested you stay on her detail. Full-time. Personal guard." Daniel felt his stomach tighten. "Me, sir?" "Yes, you," Leora said. Her voice was steady. "You proved yourself. My people value loyalty and courage. You showed both." The commander crossed his arms. "It's not normal. We don't usually pull low-level guards for royal protection. But the attack last night changes things. The radicals are real. They want the treaty dead and they'll keep coming. You're already marked. Might as well make it official." Daniel looked at Leora. She waited, patient. "I'll do it," he said. Hale gave a short nod. "Report to the Royal Wing in 4 hours. Get cleared by medical first." He left without another word. Leora stayed. She stood near the bed, hands folded in front of her. "You will need new clothes, a better uniform, and training with my guards." Daniel gave a small smile. "I'm not much for fancy stuff." "It is not about fancy," she said. "It is about being ready." She paused. "I want to understand why you did it. You could have stayed back. Most would have." Daniel thought for a moment. "I saw the blade coming for you. I didn't think past that. If I let it happen, I'd have to live with it. That's worse than a cut." Her violet eyes studied him. "Humans surprise me. My advisors say your kind is loud, short-lived, always fighting among yourselves. But you fight for others too, even strangers." "We're not all the same," Daniel said. "Some run, some stand." She nodded slowly. "I will learn more about that." Then she left, quiet as she came. 4 hours later, Daniel walked into the royal wing. His old gray uniform was gone. In its place was a darker one, black with silver trim, lighter material, built for movement. A new stun baton hung at his belt, plus a small energy shield generator clipped to his wrist. It felt strange, heavier in a good way. The Valorian guards waited in the training room. There were 4 of them, tall, silent, faces hard. Their leader was named Kale. He had a scar across one cheek, and eyes like cold stars. "You are the human who jumped in?" Kale said. "No hello." "That's me," Daniel answered. Kale looked him up and down. "Show us what you can do." They trained for 2 hours, no breaks. The Valorians moved fast, like water over rocks. Daniel blocked, dodged, countered. His arm hurt every time he raised it, but he didn't complain. He took hits, gave some back. By the end, sweat soaked his new uniform, and bruises bloomed on his ribs. But Kale gave one short nod. Acceptable, for now. After training, Daniel followed the group to the princess's private suite. It was bigger than his whole room back in the worker quarters. Soft lights, crystal walls that changed color slowly, low tables with strange fruits. Leora sat on a wide chair, reading from a thin glowing tablet. She looked up. "You are tired." "A little," Daniel admitted. "Sit," she said, pointing to a chair across from her. He sat. It felt too soft after the hard benches he was used to. "We will talk," she said. "You know little about my world. I know little about yours." Daniel leaned forward. "Tell me about Vealoria." She set the tablet down. "It is a planet of light. Our cities grow from crystal. We live long lives. We do not rush. We plan for centuries. Your people move fast. You build, break, build again. It confuses us." Daniel thought about Earth. "We don't have centuries, so we make what we can in the time we have. Sometimes it's messy." "Messy," she repeated. "Yes, but alive." They talked for a long time. She asked about his childhood, his town in Ohio, why he left Earth. He told her simple things, fixing cars with his dad, watching stars at night, joining security because it paid and got him off the ground. She listened without interrupting. He asked about her. She spoke of growing up in a palace of glass, lessons every day, the weight of being heir. "I am never alone," she said, "but I am often lonely." Daniel understood that more than he expected. Days passed. The station stayed on high alert. Extra scanners at every door, more guards everywhere. Daniel stayed close to Leora. He walked with her to meetings, stood outside rooms while she talked to diplomats, watched the crowds for any wrong move. Not long speeches, just small things. She liked the taste of human coffee, even if she said it was too bitter. He showed her a picture on his pad of the small lake near his old house. She smiled at it, a real smile this time. One evening, after a long day of talks, they sat in a quiet observation deck. The stars moved slowly outside the big window. Earth glowed blue below. "You are different from other humans here," she said. "How?" "You do not try to impress, you just are." Daniel shrugged. "Never been good at impressing." "That is why I trust you," she said. "The ones who talk loud often hide something." He looked at her. "You trust me?" "Yes," she said simply. A soft alarm beeped on his wristcom. Message from security. New intelligence. The radicals had a bigger plan. They wanted to hit during the final treaty signing. Something about a bomb or a virus in the air system. "We need to tell your advisors." She rose too. "We will. But first, know this. Whatever comes, I am glad you are here." Daniel felt something warm in his chest. Not pride, something steadier. "Same here." They walked back to the suite together. The station hummed around them. Danger waited somewhere in the shadows. But for now, in this quiet moment, Daniel Brooks was no longer just a nobody guard. He was someone who mattered. The final treaty signing was set for the next day on the neutral conference ship docked at the far end of Harmony Point. Everyone felt the tension. Extra scanners swept every person and crate. Guards stood closer together. Daniel Brooks walked beside Princess Leora as her group moved through the long connecting tube to the shuttle bay. Leora wore her formal robe today, silver with thin blue threads that caught the light. She looked calm on the outside, but Daniel noticed her hands stayed folded tight. He stayed one step behind her left side, eyes scanning ahead and to the sides. His new uniform fit better now. The bruises from training had faded to yellow. His stun baton felt like part of his hand. The shuttle bay was busy. Small ships waited in rows. Workers in orange suits checked fuel lines. Diplomats from many worlds stood in groups, talking low. The conference ship loomed outside the big doors, a sleek white vessel shaped like a long arrow. Daniel's comm beeped once. A short message from Commander Hale. "All clear so far. Stay sharp." They reached the boarding ramp. Leora's advisors went first, then her 4 Violorian guards. Daniel followed right behind the princess. The ramp was narrow, metal grating under their feet. The air smelled of oil and recycled oxygen. Halfway up, it happened. A low rumble started under the floor, then a sharp crack, like thunder inside the station. The lights flashed red. Alarms screamed. The ramp shook hard. Daniel grabbed the rail to keep balance. Leora stumbled but caught herself. Explosives. The blast came from below the docking clamps. A section of the bay floor blew open. Fire shot up. Shouts filled the air. A piece of metal tore loose and flew past Daniel's head. "Get back!" one Valorian guard yelled. But it was too late. The connecting tube buckled. A second explosion ripped through the middle. The tube split. Air rushed out in a roar. Emergency doors slammed down on both ends, sealing the breach. But the damage was done. The group was cut off. Leora, Daniel, 2 Valorian guards, and 3 Earth diplomats trapped in the damaged half of the tube. Gravity failed in sections. Debris floated. Oxygen hissed from cracked pipes. Daniel pulled Leora close to the wall. "Stay low," he said. "We need to move." The remaining Valorian guards, Kale and another named Vera, drew their weapons. "The assassins are coming," Kale said. "They timed it." Daniel looked through a small viewport. Dark figures in suits moved along the outside hull toward the breach. They carried tools to cut through. "The air's dropping fast." He pointed to a service hatch in the floor. "Maintenance tunnels. They run under the main levels. Humans built them old school, narrow, but they connect to the escape pods on Deck 5. Kale looked doubtful. "Too small for us." "Better than dying here," Daniel said. Leora nodded. We followed Daniel. They pried the hatch open. Cold air rushed up. Daniel went first, sliding down a short ladder into darkness. He turned on his wrist light. The tunnel was tight, pipes and cables along the walls, barely enough room to crawl. Leora followed, her robe catching on a bolt. She pulled it free without a word. The others came after. They moved fast. The tunnel sloped down, then turned left. Daniel led because he knew these old sections. Years of walking the lower levels had taught him the layout. The Viorians were strong, but clumsy in the small space. Their armor scraped metal. Behind them, they heard cutting torches. The assassins were breaking in. The air grew thinner. Daniel's head started to feel light. He pushed harder. "Not far," he said, more to himself. They reached a junction. 3 ways to go. Daniel chose the middle one. "This leads to the pod bay." They crawled on. Sweat ran down Daniel's face. His old wound ached again. Leora breathed steady beside him, but her glow dimmed a little. Then the tunnel opened into a wider service room. Tools lay scattered. A small air recycler hummed weakly. They stood up, stretching sore muscles. But they weren't alone. 3 assassins waited, human, in black suits with breather masks. One held a rifle. The other 2 had the same glowing blades. Kale and Vera stepped forward. "Stay behind us," Kale told Leora. Daniel moved to her side instead. "No, we all fight." The fight started fast. Kale charged the rifleman. Energy shots lit the room blue. Vera took the blade fighter on the left. Daniel faced the third. The assassin smiled under his mask. "You again, guard dog." Daniel didn't answer. He dodged the first swing. The blade hummed past his ear. He kicked the man's knee. The assassin stumbled. Daniel grabbed his arm and twisted. The blade dropped. They wrestled. Daniel's side burned where the old graze reopened. Across the room, Kale took a shot to the shoulder, but kept fighting. Vera cut one assassin down. Daniel's opponent punched him in the face. Blood filled his mouth. He tasted copper. He headbutted back. The mask cracked. The man fell. But more came. 4 new figures dropped from a ceiling vent. They moved like hunters. Daniel looked at Leora. She stood against the wall, hands glowing faintly. Valorians could make energy fields, but it took strength. "Use it," Daniel said. "Protect yourself." She shook her head. "I will not leave you to die." One assassin aimed at her. Daniel jumped in front. The shot hit his chest. The energy shield on his wrist sparked and took most of it, but the force knocked him back. He hit the wall hard. Pain exploded in his ribs. He slid to the floor. Blood seeped through his uniform. Leora cried out, soft but real. She raised her hands. A silver field bloomed around her, pushing the assassins back. They fired, but the shots bounced off. Daniel struggled up. "Get to the pods," he gasped. "Go." The field flickered. Leora was tiring. Kale and Vera fought on, but they were hurt too. Daniel saw the pod access door 10 meters away. He pushed off the wall. He grabbed an assassin's dropped blade. It felt wrong in his hand. Heavy. Hot. He charged the nearest enemy. He took a cut across his leg. He didn't stop. He drove the blade into the man's side. The assassin fell. Another shot hit Daniel's shoulder. Blood floated in the low gravity. Red globules drifting like slow rain. Leora ran to him. She dropped the field to pull him up. "Come with me." He shook his head. "No time. They'll follow. Get out." She held his face. Her hands were cool. "You do not get to decide this alone." He smiled, weak. "Worth it. For once I mattered." Her eyes filled with something like tears. Clear, shining drops that floated away. Daniel pushed her toward the pod door. "Go, tell them, humans don't quit." She hesitated. Then she nodded. Kale and Vera dragged her back. She kept looking at Daniel as they went. Daniel turned to the last assassins. 2 left. He stood, swaying. Blood dripped from his wounds. He raised the blade one more time. The pod hatch closed behind Leora. A hiss of air, then silence. Daniel fought until he couldn't anymore. The assassins closed in. One raised a weapon. Daniel fell forward, still trying to swing. Everything went dark. Outside, the pod shot free from the station. Leora sat inside, staring at the closing hatch through the small window. Her hands shook. The treaty ship waited. The radicals had failed to stop the signing, but at a cost. Daniel Brooks, the nobody guard, had given everything. The escape pod shot away from the damaged section of Harmony Point like a small silver arrow. Inside, Princess Leora sat strapped into the narrow seat, staring at the small round window. The view showed the twisted metal of the docking bay growing smaller. Sparks still floated in the void where the explosions had torn things apart. Her hands stayed tight on the armrests. Her glow had dimmed to a faint shimmer. The 2 surviving Valorian guards, Kale and Vera, sat silent beside her. Kale's shoulder bled through his armor. Vera held a cloth to a cut on her arm. No one spoke for a long time. The pod's autopilot guided it toward the main conference ship. A soft voice from the controls said, "Docking in 3 minutes. Medical team standing by." Leora did not answer. Her mind kept going back to the service room. To Daniel Brooks, standing there, blood floating around him like dark stars, blade in his hand, refusing to fall until the very last second. When the pod locked onto the conference ship's bay, the doors hissed open. Medics rushed in. They helped Kale and Vera out first. Leora stood slowly. Her robe was torn in places, stained with Daniel's blood from when she had held him. A medic reached for her arm. She shook her head. "I am not hurt." She walked out of the pod on her own. The bay was full of people, Earth diplomats, alien ambassadors, security teams. Everyone looked shocked. The treaty signing was still hours away, but the attack had changed everything. Commander Hale pushed through the crowd. His face was pale. "Your Highness, we heard the blast. What happened?" Leora looked at him. "The radicals struck. They cut the tube. We were trapped. Daniel Brooks led us through the maintenance tunnels. He fought so we could reach the pod." Hale's eyes went to the empty pod behind her. "Where is he?" Leora's voice stayed even, but it cracked just a little at the end. "He stayed behind to hold them off." Hale closed his eyes for a second. Then he nodded. "We'll send a recovery team." But Leora knew. She had seen the last look on Daniel's face, the weak smile, the words he spoke. She knew no recovery team would bring him back alive. Hours passed. The conference ship stayed locked down. Teams searched the wreckage. They found bodies, mostly the assassins. Then they found Daniel. They brought him back in a sealed bag, quiet, careful. Hale met the team at the bay. He looked inside the bag, then turned away. "Prepare him for transport to Earth," he said. "Full honors." Leora asked to see him. They took her to a small medical room. The bag lay on a table. She stood alone for a long time. Then she opened it, just enough. to see his face. His eyes were closed. The cuts and burns looked worse in the bright light, but his expression was calm, almost peaceful. She touched his cheek. It was cold. "You mattered," she whispered, "more than you ever knew." The treaty signing went ahead that evening. The room was smaller now, more guarded. Every leader spoke. They talked about peace, about the future, about how the attack had failed to stop them. When it was Leora's turn, she stood at the podium. Her voice carried through the ship and back to Harmony Point. "Today we sign this agreement," she said. "But we sign it because of one man who gave his life to make it possible." Daniel Brooks was a guard, a human, a nobody, some would say. He had no title, no wealth, no long life ahead. Yet when danger came, he did not run. He stood, he fought, he died so that others could live, so that this moment could happen. She paused. The room was silent. My people have long thought humans weak, short-lived, chaotic. But today I saw the truth. Humans carry a fire inside them. It burns quiet in most, but when it is needed, it blazes. Daniel Brooks showed us that fire. Because of him, the stars will be a little closer for all of us. She signed the treaty. Then the Earth leaders signed. Then the others. Applause started slow, then grew. Not loud cheers. Respectful. Real. After the signing, Leora went to the observation deck. Earth turned below, blue and white. She stayed there until the ship prepared to leave. Weeks later, back on Harmony Point, a small ceremony took place. A new statue stood in the main arrival bay. It was simple, bronze, life-size. Daniel Brooks in his black guard uniform, standing straight, hands at his sides, eyes looking forward. No dramatic pose, no sword raised, just a man doing his job. A plaque read, "Daniel Brooks. He stood when others could not. Humanity's quiet strength." Leora had paid for it herself. She attended the unveiling. She placed a single crystal flower at the base. It glowed soft blue, like her skin. Then she spoke to the gathered crowd, guards, workers, diplomats. "This statue is not for glory," she said. "It is for memory, for the reminder that one person, even the smallest, can change everything. Daniel Brooks was my guard. He became my friend. He taught me that courage does not need a crown. It needs only a heart that chooses to act." After that, stories spread. On Earth, in small towns and big cities, people talked about the guard who saved an alien princess. In schools, teachers told the story to children. On other worlds, traders carried the tale. Valorians who once ignored humans now spoke of them with new respect. Leora returned to her planet. She ruled with the same calm grace, but something had changed. She listened more. She asked questions about humans. She pushed for more exchanges, students, scientists, even simple workers. When advisors questioned it, she said, "We learn from those who teach us best." Years passed. Harmony Point grew busier. New ships came. New treaties followed. The statue stayed in the bay, polished by time and touch. Guards sometimes stood near it during their shifts. They did not talk much about it. They just looked at it and remembered. On quiet nights, when the station lights dimmed, Leora would sometimes visit the statue in her mind. She remembered the small talks in the observation deck, the picture of the lake on Earth, the way Daniel never tried to impress her, just was himself. She never forgot his last words. "Worth it. For once I mattered." And he had mattered, more than he ever imagined. Back on Earth, in the small town in Ohio, people put up a small marker near the lake Daniel used to watch. A simple stone, with his name and dates. Kids sometimes left flowers there, not many, just enough. Daniel Brooks had started as a nobody guard. He ended as a name remembered across stars. Not because he wanted fame, but because when the moment came, he chose to stand. And in the end, that was enough. The galaxy turned on. Ships flew between worlds, peace held, fragile but real, and somewhere in the quiet spaces between the stars, the fire Daniel carried stayed lit. In other humans, in other guards, in anyone who ever felt small, but still chose to act. He was gone, but what he showed the universe would not fade.